couple of nights ago, me and my girlfriend got ran off the road, and then we got shot at by a gang, and it just multiplied. More carloads were just rocking up, hectically.
Welcome to Sinister Journal, your go-to channel for the best true crime documentaries. Today we're diving deep into a single chilling case that has left a family shattered and searching for answers. What happens when a routine drive through the Outback turns into a nightmare and a young mother vanishes without a trace? Join us as we unravel the mystery of Angie Lee Fuller's disappearance, a case that gripped the nation and remains unsolved to this day. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Alice Springs, a remote outpost in Australia's Northern Territory, is surrounded by harsh outback. Angie Lee Fuller, a 30-year-old mother of two, sought a fresh start there. On January 9th, 2023, she vanished, leaving a mystery that grips her family and investigators to this day. Her father, Tony Fuller, recalled, "Angie was a loving mother. Her kids were everything to her. She just started this new job at Drug and Alcohol Services Australia, and you could see how excited she was. It was like she was finally finding her footing." Angie had moved to Alice Springs months earlier for a job at DASA, where she worked with addiction patients, helping them with empathy and resilience. Colleagues noted her dedication and positive impact. Her father said she was thrilled about her new life and was driving back from Darwin when she disappeared. She couldn't wait to get back to her kids and her job, he recalled. On January 9th, 2023, Angie was last seen on CCTV at a truck stop north of Alice Springs at 6:40 p.m., driving her red Toyota Corolla. At the truck stop, Angie bought fuel and supplies, seemingly in good spirits. What happened next remains unknown. Alice Springs offered Angie a chance to rebuild. Friends remember her as warm and generous, devoted to her children. One friend said, "She'd drop everything to help you. She loved her kids and was proud of her new job." At DASA, CEO Eloise Page noted, "She brought passion to our team. Her disappearance hit us hard." Angie had recently started a relationship with a man who joined her on the drive. Her father, Tony, said, "I didn't know much about him. As a father, I worry." She left Darwin on January 8, 2023, heading for the Tanami Road, a rugged, often unpaved stretch known for its isolation and risks, especially during the wet season when rains can turn it into a muddy trap. An expert warned, "It's remote and rough, especially in January. Breakdowns can leave you stranded." Angie had driven the route before and was expected home on January 9th. Since her disappearance, search teams have scoured the area, but no trace of her has been found. Her family continues to seek answers, holding on to hope that one day the mystery will be solved. As of March 2025, the case remains unresolved, a haunting puzzle in the vast outback. Imagine a road so remote, so unforgiving, that even the most seasoned travelers approach it with caution. Tanami Road, a 1,000-kilometer stretch of rugged, unpaved terrain, cutting through the heart of Australia's Northern Territory, is just such a place. On January 9th, 2023, Angie Lee Fuller embarked on this perilous journey back to Alice Springs, unaware that she was driving into one of the Outback's most baffling mysteries. Angie had left Darwin the day before, likely after a visit with friends or family. Though the details remain elusive, she was expected to arrive in Alice Springs by evening, but as night fell and there was no sign of her, alarm bells began to ring. At 6:40 p.m., CCTV footage captured her at a truck stop, calmly filling up her red Toyota Corolla and buying supplies. She seemed tired but composed, giving no hint of the turmoil that lay ahead. But what happened next defies easy explanation. According to her boyfriend who was traveling with her, they encountered another vehicle on Tanami Road shortly after leaving the truck stop. He claims there was an incident, vague in detail, that caused Angie's car to veer off the road. In a desperate bid for safety, both reportedly fled into the surrounding bushland, a vast and hostile wilderness. Hours later, the boyfriend emerged alone and alerted the authorities. Angie, however, was nowhere to be found. Her car was discovered about 12 hours later, abandoned off Tanami Road. There were no signs of a struggle, no clear evidence of foul play, just an empty vehicle with its doors open, as if its occupants had vanished into thin air. An investigator on the scene noted, "When we found the vehicle, it was clear something had gone wrong. The car was off the road, but there was no damage to suggest a major accident. It was like they just disappeared." The boyfriend's account was the first piece of a puzzle that refused to fit together. He insisted they were shot at by a gang, forcing them to flee into the bush. But this story would soon be met with doubt and scrutiny. Angie's father, Tony Fuller, was devastated. "When I heard about the car being found, my heart sank. Angie wouldn't just leave her kids like that. Something was wrong, very wrong." Within days, a massive search operation was underway, covering nearly 400 square kilometers of rugged bushland. Helicopters, drones, and ground teams combed the area, but the terrain was relentless. Dense scrub, rocky outcrops, and the ever-present threat of dehydration. A volunteer searcher remarked, "It was like looking for a needle in a haystack. The Outback can swallow you whole." We were hopeful at first, especially with the recent rains. There were water sources she could have found, but as the days passed, hope started to fade. Despite the exhaustive efforts, no trace of Angie was found. Her boyfriend, meanwhile, had been located and was cooperating with the police. Yet his story left many unconvinced. As the search continued, questions multiplied. What really happened on Tanami Road that night? Was it a random attack, as the boyfriend claimed, or was there a darker truth hidden in the shadows? And why was Angie the only one who didn't make it out of the bush? A close friend of Angie's reflected, "Angie was a fighter. If she was out there, she'd find a way to survive. But the longer she was missing, the more we feared the worst." Tony Fuller added, "I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right with her boyfriend's story. Angie wouldn't just run off like that. She had too much to live for." By January 11th, 2023, Angie was officially reported missing, and the case began to captivate the public imagination. The community rallied, but the Outback guarded its secrets jealously. As days turned into weeks, the initial hope of finding Angie alive began to dim, and the specter of a more sinister fate loomed large. What secrets does the vast, silent bushland still hold? And will Angie's fate ever be uncovered? In the days following Angie Lee Fuller's disappearance, the Northern Territory Police launched one of the largest search operations in recent memory. Nearly 400 square kilometers of rugged outback terrain stretched out before them, a vast and unforgiving landscape that swallowed their efforts whole. Days turned into weeks with no sign of Angie, and a creeping unease began to settle in. The once hopeful search for a lost traveler was giving way to something darker, something that whispered of secrets buried deep in the bush. After 2 weeks, the reality became impossible to ignore. The circumstances didn't add up, an investigator later admitted. Her boyfriend's story, the abandoned car, the lack of any trace, it all pointed to something more sinister. The Toyota Corolla sat untouched on Tanami Road, a silent witness to whatever had unfolded. Yet it offered no clues, no footprints, no signs of struggle, nothing to suggest Angie had ever been there. Then came the chilling announcement that would change everything. On January 24th, 2023, just 15 days after Angie vanished, the Northern Territory Police declared the case a suspected homicide. Based on the information we've gathered, a police spokesperson revealed, we believe a third party was involved in Angie Fuller's disappearance. This is now a homicide investigation. For Angie's father, Tony Fuller, the words hit like a sledgehammer. It felt like the ground dropped out from under me, he said, but part of me already knew. Angie wouldn't just disappear like that. Someone took her from us. The investigation pivoted sharply. The sprawling search for Angie faded into the background as suspicion turned toward the people closest to her, starting with her boyfriend, the last person to see her alive. His tale was dramatic. A gang had shot at them on Tanami Road, forcing them to flee into the bush, where Angie somehow vanished. But the story unraveled almost immediately. His account didn't hold water, an expert noted. No evidence of gunfire, no shell casings, no damage to the car. It felt like a fabrication, and police knew it. Forensic teams descended on Angie's Toyota Corolla, combing every inch for answers. The car stared back at them, intact and unyielding. No bullet holes, no mechanical failures, nothing to explain why it had veered off the road. Tony Fuller's voice trembled with doubt as he spoke. I never believed his story. Angie was a careful driver, and she knew that road. The idea that they were chased off by some gang, it just didn't make sense. I think he knows more than he's letting on. Whispers about the boyfriend's past only fueled the fire. Described as a neck-tattooed man who called himself a sovereign citizen, he'd clashed with authorities before. A later conviction for violent offenses in Queensland painted an even murkier picture. Yet despite the growing suspicion, the boyfriend remained a shadow in the case, never publicly named as a suspect. The police moved cautiously, their hands tied without concrete evidence. Behind closed doors, though, they were piecing together a puzzle that refused to fit. On May 25, 2023, they shifted tactics, releasing images of two vehicles spotted near Tanami Road on the night Angie disappeared. We believe these vehicles may have been in the area on January 9th, a spokesperson urged. If you recognize them, please come forward. A witness stirred from the silence. I remember seeing a car like that, they recalled. It was parked off the road, looked out of place, but I didn't think much of it until now. Tips flooded in, each one a flicker of hope, but none ignited a breakthrough. The vehicles slipped back into the haze of the unknown. The deeper the police dug, the more the boyfriend's story cracked. He claimed they'd fled into the bush together, but when he emerged, Angie was gone. Search teams scoured the area, dogs, drones, and helicopters cutting through the Outback's silence, yet found nothing. In that terrain, someone could get lost quickly, an expert explained. But after 2 weeks, we should have found something. A piece of clothing, a footprint. The fact that there was nothing suggests she might not have been there at all. The revelation hung heavy in the air. Had Angie ever set foot in the bush with him? Or had something happened long before they reached Tanami Road? Tony Fuller's suspicion grew sharper. I've said from the start, I think she was gone before they even got to that road. Maybe she never left Darwin alive. His story's a cover-up. What really happened on Tanami Road that night? Could Angie still be out there, lost in the endless expanse of the Outback? Or does a far more sinister truth lurk beneath the surface? As the investigation stretched on, the answers drifted further out of reach, leaving Angie's family and the authorities grasping at shadows. The mystery of her disappearance tightened its grip, a haunting riddle with no end in sight, as the vast Outback held its secrets close, perhaps forever. In the vast, unforgiving expanse of the Australian Outback, Angie Lee Fuller vanished without a whisper. Weeks stretched into months, and the investigation into her disappearance on January 9th, 2023, collided with the brutal reality of the remote terrain, a sprawling, sun-scorched wilderness that offered no clues, no mercy. Picture this: a search spanning 400 square kilometers, helicopters slicing through the sky, boots pounding the red earth, and yet not a single trace of the 30-year-old mother of two. How does someone simply dissolve into thin air? Her red Toyota Corolla sat abandoned off Tanami Road, doors flung open, as if Angie and her boyfriend had stepped out for a moment and never returned. Forensic teams pored over every inch of it, desperate for a fingerprint, a strand of hair, anything to hint at what happened. But the car stayed stubbornly silent. No blood, no dents, no signs of a fight. It was in perfect working order, one expert mused. So why did they leave the road? And where did Angie go? The mystery gnawed at everyone, a riddle with no edges. Investigators fanned out, knocking on doors in the scattered outback communities along Tanami Road. In a place this remote, people are few and far between, and memories blur like heat waves on the horizon. They dug into Angie's phone records and bank accounts, but after that January night, there was nothing. No calls, no withdrawals, just an eerie void. It was a silence that roared with questions. The story gripped Australia like a fever. A young mother lost in the wild, her boyfriend spinning a wild tale of a gang shooting. It was the kind of mystery that keeps you up at night. Journalists stormed Alice Springs, chasing every whisper, but the case seemed cursed to stall. Leads have dried up, one reporter sighed, and the deeper you look, the less you find. Yet the public couldn't look away, hooked on the haunting unknown. For Angie's family, every day was a fresh wound. Her two young children, too little to grasp the enormity of it, kept asking when their mum would come home. Her father, Tony Fuller, refused to let the world forget. "It's a nightmare," he said, voice cracking. "My grandkids need answers, and I've got none to give. The police are trying, but we're trapped in this endless waiting. I won't stop until we know what happened." His words carried the weight of a father's love and a fighter's resolve. Then in late 2023, a spark flared. A witness crept forward, claiming they'd spotted a vehicle near Tanami Road that night, a match for one the police had flagged months before. Hope surged, hearts raced, and investigators pounced. They tracked down the owner, grilled him for hours, but the trail went cold again. An alibi checked out, and no link to Angie surfaced. Another gut punch, another dead end. The Outback doesn't give up its secrets easily, an expert explained. It's vast, brutal, and without evidence or witnesses, you're chasing shadows. The boyfriend story doesn't add up. Gangs and gunfire out there? It's shaky, but without proof, we're stuck. That shaky tale hung over the case like a storm cloud, darkening every step. As the one-year mark loomed, Angie's family lit candles at a vigil in Alice Springs. The community gathered, Their flickering lights a fragile stand against the darkness. But the questions lingered, sharp and relentless. What happened on that lonely stretch of Tanami Road? Is Angie still out there, wandering the bush, or did something darker claim her? Tony Fuller faced the crowd, his voice a raw, desperate plea. Angie, if you're listening, we're still searching. We won't give up. And if anyone knows anything, please help us bring her home. The Outback stretched on, silent and indifferent, holding its secrets tight. Angie Lee Fuller's fate remained a ghost in the dust, a story unfinished, leaving those who loved her clinging to hope, and the rest of us wondering if the truth would ever break free. From the moment Angie's boyfriend staggered out of the bushland, wild-eyed and frantic, his story raised red flags. He swore a gang ambushed them on Tanami Road, guns blazing, forcing their car off the road and sending them fleeing into the night. But what really happened out there? The evidence, or lack of it, told a different tale. No bullet casings, no dents or scratches on the car, and most hauntingly, no sign of Angie where he claimed they ran. Investigators didn't buy it. His story collapsed under its own weight, a detective said. No gunfire, no trace of her, just empty words. Tanami Road, a lonely stretch of outback dust, isn't exactly a gang hotspot. No one else reported trouble that night, leaving his account dangling in the wind. Was he spinning a yarn to dodge the truth? Angie's father, Tony Fuller, smelled a rat from the start. Angie knew that road like the back of her hand, he insisted. A gang chasing them off? I don't believe it. He's hiding something. His gut screamed what the evidence whispered. Something was off. The boyfriend stuck to his tale under questioning, tense and edgy, even as it unraveled. Police couldn't pin him down, yet. Then came the kicker, a violent rap sheet from Queensland, a shadow over his every word. Did he think no one would dig that up? With no proof to lock him up and Angie still missing, the case stalled. His shaky story and dark past left a chilling question hanging. What really happened that night? The Outback holds its secrets tight, and the truth about Angie stays buried. For now. The investigation into Angie Lee Fuller's disappearance stretched on, stacking questions higher each day. The Northern Territory Police unleashed dogs, choppers, and boots across 400 square kilometers of unforgiving outback. But the land swallowed every clue. No tire marks, no phone, no Angie. The trail wasn't cold, it was a ghost. So suspicion shifted to her boyfriend, the last to see her alive. What really happened that night? He claimed a gang ambushed them on Tanami Road, bullets flying, forcing a desperate dash into the bush. Angie didn't return, he said, yet the car sat pristine. No dents, no casings, no tracks. Too clean, a detective growled. His violent past in Queensland didn't help. But proof? Elusive as ever. Angie's dad, Tony Fuller, spat. He's lying. Angie knew that road cold. A gang? Rubbish. The cops grilled him until his story cracked. But without a body, they were stuck. Was he hiding the truth? Then in 2023, a witness spotted a suspicious vehicle near Tanami Road. Hope flared until the owner's alibi checked out. Another dead end. Desperation hit. A $250,000 reward sparked tips, but they chased shadows. Someone knows, Tony pleaded. A criminologist shrugged. No evidence, no chance. The Outback's too vast. As 2024 dawned, the case crawled on, the mystery clinging like dust. Is the truth buried forever? The Angie Lee Fuller case didn't end. It just vanished like she did. No body, no arrest, no confession, just a void where answers should be. The police kept her file open, refusing to let it fade, but they were chasing shadows. The Outback had swallowed Angie whole. Her dad, Tony, haunted his porch, eyes locked on the horizon, as if Angie might emerge from the scrub. "I'll never stop looking," he'd say, voice breaking. Her kids asked, "Where's Mummy?" Tony's reply, a fragile hope. "She's lost, but we're still searching." The boyfriend's tale, gangs, gunshots, a frantic escape, fell apart under scrutiny. Was it a lie? No evidence backed him up, yet suspicion lingered. Whispers grew. He did it, hid her out there. But proof? Nothing. Blurry vehicles of interest teased investigators. Tips piled up, then fizzled out. The $250,000 reward sat untouched. Years passed, but the mystery burned. What happened on Tanami Road? The Outback hides secrets, but Angie's absence felt too perfect. "It haunts me," a detective confessed. "The answer's buried out there." Angie's face faded on posters, her family's cries lost to the wind. Yet one question lingered. Is she still out there? And that concludes our deep dive into this fascinating case. What are your thoughts? Do you think justice was served, or does the mystery run deeper than we realize? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss our next investigation into the world's most compelling stories. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay curious and stay safe.